You ready? Let's get started. So in this video, we're going to be talking to men specifically. Now, if you're a woman and you're watching this, you're going to get a lot of value, but maybe not necessarily entirely for your own life, maybe for your husbands or your sons or your boyfriends and how to understand them and how to talk to them, okay? So let's dive straight into it. All right, this is going to be yet another mind-blowing presentation with only 400 or 500 views. And if you're one of the 400 or 500 people seeing this, you are in luck. I got to say, this has become the most fun of everything that I'm doing in my business, above and beyond everything else by far. So we're going to keep going with it. So are you ready? We're going to talk about masculinity. There's a lot of bullshit out there with masculinity. Now, am I this ultimate representation of what it is to be the man? No. But I've worked with a lot of men, thousands of men, thousands of very, very varying ranges of men, and super, super successful, uber athletic. And I have learned a lot about the inner condition of a man today, including my own journey with my masculinity, my own journey with my health. I really, really had to dig deep inside of myself and understand myself through my illness. So that's what qualifies me, right? I've dove deep from my illness, and I was a jiu-jitsu world champion, and I've seen success, and I've worked with a lot of successful people, okay? And I want to talk about masculinity, okay? So let's dive straight into it. Let's talk about the spirit of a man, a primal exploration into ancient forces within. Okay, a lot of men, no matter how rich they are, they don't know themselves. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. What is an alpha man? What do men want? Let's start there. What do men want, right? Of all that I've seen in the world and all the men that I've talked to, all the men that I'm connected to, this is what I've observed what men want. Okay, they carry a deep, deep desire, a longing, an unattainable vision for himself that he conjured from years of movies, television, daydreaming, and fantasy. There's something inside that men want, okay? And what it is essentially being in control, getting whatever he wants whenever he wants, being the man, being the alpha, wants to be able to seduce women, make millions of dollars, dominate the space. So men want to dominate. Most men want to win. They want to dominate. They want to feel like where they go somewhere, they make an impression, and they win the situation. Men are very competitive, right? They want to win the situation. Like, I was the man that day. I went to the party and I was the man at that party. Okay? They want to make an amazing impression, power. They want to know what to say and when to say it. They want to make women orgasm, fall in love with him. They want to drop the mic every time. There's something secret inside of a man, all right, where it's like they want to mic drop every time they show up to something, okay? And they want to be perfect, a winner. They want peace, but they want war. They want creative flow, mission, purpose, family, and they want to be alpha. This is not all men, but let's just say a lot of men. They have these deep, deep desires of all of this. Okay, it owns them. Now, underneath all of that, a man also wants love and connection and to know himself and to have a quiet, internal system and wellness and health. Okay? But there is something unachievable, unattainable that men want, and it's this, right? And maybe Andrew Tate is like a perfect example of just simply going after all of these illusory stereotypical masculine desires and traits, right? And the trick is that men think that if they can get all of this and if they chase this, then they are going to be a whole man. They're going to be a complete man, and they're going to have satisfaction in their life, right? Andrew Tate is the perfect example. He's all of these things, right? You look at his videos and you can see that he is definitely chasing all of these things to a T. Okay? And what I've observed, again, over the years of working with these kinds of men who have health issues and that this illusion no longer works for them anymore, what I've observed is that it's a booby trap. Okay? You're never going to be that guy. Okay? And you constantly have to chase things in order to climb that ladder. Constantly chasing things. Constantly working really, really, really hard. Sacrificing, right? And you're always achieving and optimizing in order to get these wantings met. Like you have to learn strategy, you have to learn technique, you have to, there's just so much you have to do to make the millions of dollars. To dominate the space, you have to get jacked, you have to get tanned, you have to get good posture, big pecs. Make sure your neck is in the right position. Make sure you're speaking with eye contact. There's so much strategy and effort and just never-ending gymnastics that you have to do to put on this character that you're supposed to be as a man, right? The perfectionism, the cold calculations, knowing exactly what to say, when to say it, right? Seduction, right? Woman after woman after woman falling in love with you and breaking their hearts because you're the fucking man. You're in control of your emotions. You're in control of every situation. You're in control of your employees. You're in control of everyone around you. You are in control, right? You're perfect. The level of exhaustion that comes from this is why I have a business. It's why I work with high-level men, because they chase this shit and they get absolutely picked apart, annihilated, and emaciated spiritually and emotionally in the process. Okay? Because it's not possible, rant time, it's not possible to hold ourselves as men to that vision. It's not possible. We'll never be that. Why? Because we're human, we're vulnerable, we have traumas, we have weaknesses, and you know what? This is like a little tiny piece of wood. This can penetrate my skin with enough pressure. This tiny little piece of shit thing to stir a tea. You think you're the man? You think you're invisible? Take this little stick for 3 cents and it will go through your arm with enough pressure. Or a knife takes what, 3-4 pounds of pressure to cut through my skin and harm me in an immeasurable way, right? If it was in my heart. Like, you got to understand that you're vulnerable. You're a vulnerable creature. We don't want to understand that because we think we want to be invincible and we want to be the man, and we think vulnerability is weakness in this culture. But you are vulnerable by default by being a human being. Like, go outside and sleep in the wild for 3 days. Go with underwear, okay? Even if it's a warm climate. Let's just say it's a warm climate, okay? The cold won't even affect you. Go in your underwear with a hammer and a knife and go survive in the wild for 3 to 5 days. And tell me that you're invincible. Tell me that you're strong, all right? That we've lost touch with, because we're internet superheroes, right? Because we're a culture of internet superheroes, because we're disconnected of the in-person actual flesh, and because people are chasing this illusory masculine quality of being the man, and they make money doing so on the internet, you have a culture of internet superheroes who think they're the man because they're getting all of the positive feedback from life, but they don't have the humility, which is the most important quality that all of our ancestors had and warriors in ancient traditions had. Being out in the elements, hunting, failing, constantly having competition outside of the computer screen, and not getting validation every day, all day, you get humble. So yes, you're strong and badass, but you also get the balance of humility when outside of our current epoch, let's call it. Now you have men who get the validation, they get the women, they get the money, they get the seemingly whole, complete life of everything they're chasing, but because they are a predator on their computer screen, they become disembodied and they lack humility. Okay? And that is a recipe for disaster. Because without humility, you go off the deep end. You go off the rocker. You go off your rocker. You lose something. Okay? So yes, let us win. Let us claim and dominate and get everything we want in this life. But please, as men, we cannot forget how vulnerable we are as human creature. Like, let's take the ultimate example of like one of the just say the toughest person in the world, like just a Navy SEAL, absolute killer. Look at I just watched a podcast with a dude, an Asian dude who's like a Navy SEAL, a doctor, and like a lawyer, and just like insane badass. And he was talking about his childhood and how traumatizing it was. And he realized that his accomplishments all came from just simply the level of pain he was in and he needed to accomplish in order to prove himself. But the thing that I'm talking about is even the toughest of men are deeply cut somewhere from their childhood, and they're just in a compensation. Like, there is no such thing as being just alpha dominant toughness without that covering something. It always covers something. Okay? Like, you think you're really tough? Well, when you were a child, if your mother didn't love you, or if you got rejected by your mother or your father, or if they weren't present, do you know how deep that cut runs? No matter how tough you get, that cut doesn't go away. Okay? So, let us continue here before I lose you with my ranting. So what is alpha, right? Men are really constantly fixated on being alpha. And in every male-to-male interaction, there is a conversation underneath the conversation. There's always, when men are always sizing each other up. They're always trying to figure out who's the predator, who's the prey, who's the alpha. It's a biological, primal, never-ending competition. You can feel it in sales calls, in employment meetings, in dating, in friendships, in business relationships. There's always this thing that happens that you can't really avoid. You can't really get away from it. It's like, it's just nature. There's an immediate, either you're nervous or you can't express yourself, or you're, in a predatorial state where you're kind of the man and you're owning the conversation, or there's a little bit of both, or it changes. There's constantly biological assessments happening inside of the system of who this person is to you. And are they dominant? Are they alpha? Who is the alpha? Again, this is just our biology. Okay? And men are chasing alpha. They're really fixated with alpha. Like, it's usually an outside job. What I mean is, like, a lot of men are like, well, I'll get jacked, I'll get tanned, I'll get better hair, I'll wear better clothes, I'll make more money, I'll get a better car, and then I'm alpha, right? Aren't I alpha now? Guys, it's not how it works. That's not how it works. The perfect example, the unbelievable perfect example, which we're not going to watch right now, but you can go watch this. Wes Watson, Andrew Wilson. All right?
It's okay to have...
You got to watch this video. This is a 7-minute video. All right? You got to watch this video. Wes Watson and Andrew Wilson. This dude, Andrew Wilson, Wes Watson is like, he is the representation of this. All right? He's gone to the end of the line of this. Right? And funny enough, he looks so dumb compared to this guy who's just this like Christian father who's out of shape and like just cares about love and family. And this guy, Andrew Wilson, just dominates Wes intellectually, psychologically, spiritually, and emotionally. And Wes looks like a fool, right? Even though Wes is way ahead in every single arena of every single one of these categories. Okay? And we can watch it for a second, I suppose.
Probably the $5 in my pocket. Now
I just want to know. I'm just asking. Do you have money?
No. Right. To become rich, become wealthy, but I just think it's all beside the point. Ultimately, You're trying to go for a single thing, and it's to achieve something greater
Do you have
than
money?
the person.
Does he have money?
No.
Do you have money?
No, I don't
How
have.
much
I
money
don't
do you
have.
have?
I don't
Does he
have
have
money.
money?
But here's the thing. Why is money
much-
valuable?
Do you have
Why?
money?
What is money valuable for?
I'm just asking. Do you have money?
I just said no. I'm broke. I'm a nobody.
No, but really, you are?
Yeah.
Is he really broke?
Yeah.
I just want to know. I have to know.
No, I'm
He's
not.
trolling.
I'm not one of these rich guys. I don't have a Bugatti. I don't have a Lambo. I don't have
I
a
just
Ferrari.
really have to know. Like, how much money you got?
Probably the $5 in my pocket. Not much more.
Can anyone answer for the guy?
Why do they think I'm kidding? I have a family. I take care of an entire family. That takes a lot of money.
He's doing all right.
Okay,
It's okay.
This is the thing, you guys. If you ain't fit, you can't say it's not all about being in good shape.
Why not?
If you don't have money, you can't say it's not all about money.
Yeah, why
But
not?
if he does have money, he can say that.
Why not?
He
Why can't you say it? Why must you have the thing before you hang on? Let me ask the question.
Because hypothetical is
Let me ask the question.
hypocritical.
Let me ask the question.
Hypothetical is hypocritical.
How do you even know what I was going to say before I've even been allowed to
I know
ask
what
the
you're
question?
gonna say.
Then what was I going to say?
You're gonna say why can't you ask the question?
Okay, so that's not what I was going to say. What I was going to say is how in the world can you create a standard that it's inappropriate to ask somebody, how come if I don't have X thing, because I don't value X thing, does that mean X thing is actually valuable?
You've never experienced it, so you can't speak about
You
it.
think that I haven't experienced wealth? Even
I
poor
was
people,
asking if you did.
Even poor people experience days of wealth.
I was
They
asking
can-
if you
even
did.
poor
I don't know
people-
who you are.
But even poor people experience days of wealth. And so the thing is
No,
it's
definitely not. Definitely
yeah,
not.
definitely
Definitely
so.
not.
Definitely so.
I've lived the lowest lows and the highest highs.
Well, what's the distinction? After you make X amount, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you look at the studies done on this, it does not.
I don't fit no fucking
It
studies,
does not
bro.
hugely improve a person's life.
Are you proud of who the fuck
Bro,
you are?
why
No,
don't
look
you
at.
even-
So this is where it starts getting good because now he's triggered, right? And now what you see is when someone, a man loses his emotional mastery, what happens, right?
Are you
Let me
proud?
quit.
If you look in the mirror, would you guys say this motherfucker's proud of who the fuck he is? That's a bag of trash, dude. Pull your fucking shirt
Because
off
I've
and
been-
tell me you're fucking proud
Because
of yourself.
I've been to fucking prison?
Jesus Christ,
Because
look
I've been
at
to
you,
prison?
bro. You got 10-inch arms and tits. Men don't have tits. you
No,
guys.
they go to prison where they get fucking
Fuck yeah,
where
they
get
do.
raped up the ass.
You've never been to prison. Look,
That's
you're
what
talking about shit you
happens.
don't know.
They go to prison where they get
let's
raped.
Now you get your ass
Hold on,
beat
hold
in
on,
front
hold
of
on.
You think that
everybody.
that's better?
Guys,
You think that that's better?
Let's let him give his definition of success. And then,
Having tits and 10-inch arms is what a
let's-
man is.
let's
you
let him-
guys.
let's let him get
Please
his-
don't listen to that.
Wes, let's let him get his thing out, and then
All right, so we'll leave it there for now, right? There's more to that. You can watch that video after. But essentially, you would think that Wes Watson is going to leave that conversation being the alpha because he's mastered all these things, because he's rich, because he's jacked, because he's a force, because he's strong, right? But guys, when we're addicted to strength, when we only know strength, it's a weakness. It's a major weakness. Okay, so what is alpha, right? More money, more followers, bigger crypto portfolio. If you bang more women, bigger dick. The man who talks louder, better physique, higher testosterone, deeper voice, better fighter. All of which Wes Watson is more of, right? Every single one probably here. Literally every single one, without a doubt. Okay, but Andrew Wilson had something here, especially as you keep moving along the video, in the level of maturity, in the level of emotional mastery, in the level of presence, in the level of something deep inside that is not attached to all of those things. When you attach to these things, you become the opposite of alpha. Okay, when you're attached to all of these things that we talked about here and we talked about here, you really lose something. You really lose something of your core essence. When you don't have your core essence and you are just an optimizing machine, your life is going to be empty. See, what happens with the men who go for all of this stuff is they still feel empty, even the biohacking, right? You still feel empty spiritually and emotionally. There's still something that doesn't fill your cup. Okay? There's something that just feels off. So, the thing that we've been promised, and the self-help industry and the men's movement and all of this stuff, it's missing something. Okay? And because, and what I'll use Andrew Tate as a perfect example, or Wes Watson, you become desensitized to vulnerabilities. You become desensitized to emotions. You become rigid, controlling, and energetically closed. And you become unaware of the magnitude and range of forces on the planet and also within yourself, whether it's God outside of you or God within you or nature within you. You don't have humility. You lose perspective, you lose humility, and it has an expiration date. See, all that has to happen for Andrew Tate's whole spiel to crack is like literally just an illness or a physical injury. Like if he broke his leg and was unable to like walk in the same way or work out in the same way for even a year or two, or if some sort of accident happened, it's like the whole thing just evaporates. You don't want to create a character in this lifetime that can evaporate with the snap of your fingers. Like, look, if I get an injury, guys, and God forbid, I don't want to be injured, knock on wood, my beingness is not going to change that much. All right? Now, yeah, I might get a little depressed, I'll be honest, right? And I might get sad and lower, my energy levels would lower, but my viewpoint on the world and myself isn't going to be all of a sudden eviscerated and cracked, right? When you have someone who controls everything and then they have some type, life hits them in a certain way, which, guys, eventually it will to everyone. The lucky ones get hit early on, like me at 23. I get to see through all the bullshit because of how sick I was. I'm grateful for that. If you're unlucky, well, you'll be closed and arrogant and controlling and rigid until the day you die. And then like the day you die, you're like, your DMT is bursted open and you're like, holy shit, I've been living a lie. And then you got to digest all of that at some point. I don't know how it works, maybe next life or in purgatory or in some sort of space. You got to, you're going to face something. I don't know how it works, but I know if you die like that, I'm not quite so sure that it's a pleasant death or a pleasant post-death, wherever we may go. I would bet that there's a lot of things that someone has to look at when they die like that. You even see a lot of people who are, you look at When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate, and he talks about certain qualities will lead to certain kinds of deaths and illnesses. You can see a lot of people who get Alzheimer's are people who are so strong mentally and emotionally that they just do not, like the stoic type, right? You have the stoic type and they get Alzheimer's because they're spending so much energy keeping it together. And then all of a sudden they just can't anymore. It's too much expenditure of energy. And then they fracture, right? So this illusion that this is what it is to be a good man is really, really outdated, guys. And we got to drop it. We got to let go of it. And we got to move into a new way of being. We have to figure out something else. We have to figure out a deeper, more balanced, more full way of being a man. Okay? And in my vision, we'll call it the alpha, right? I made this slide back in the day, so we'll change it, 2025. The awakened alpha. Okay, this is a man who has cultivated presence, deep presence within himself. He can cut through facades and characters with vision. I told you guys about the story where I sat in front of this guy who was like a multimillionaire coach and business coach, and I just sat in front of him and I just asked him a few questions, and his whole world melted apart, and he left the retreat. He left the mastermind that we were at. It was really weird. Really, really weird. It was like, wow, you just created a total avatar on the internet, and when something challenges it, you fall apart. That's what they say, don't meet your heroes, right? Don't meet your internet superheroes. I promise you, they'll let you down, myself included. Right? So, who can sit in his center despite all tension. He doesn't try to be alpha, care about being alpha, or have anything fake on top of his core naked beingness. He knows and studies his weaknesses. Connected to and made allies with the hidden subterranean levels of himself. He chooses truth over looking good. And he knows how to be fierce and loving. Okay, so we're talking about a man who has vision, who has presence, who can be in his center, who's not trying really hard to be alpha, who understands his weaknesses and works on them and connects to them, who knows the emotional parts of himself, and who chooses truth over looking good. If you're a leader, you have to choose truth over looking good. Right? And he knows how to be fierce and loving at the same time. And also, I would add, is deeply connected to his belly. The belly is this life force, this reservoir of life force. Let me see how many more slides we got here. Oh, too much for me. All right, too much. I got a call I got to get onto. So we're gonna stop it a little short, but I'm gonna go into what the belly is, and we'll cut it here in a little bit. Okay, we'll do another video. I'm not this YouTuber who's gonna make like 1.5 hour long YouTube videos. Like, I can't do it. All right. So a man who's connected to his belly, the belly, guys, and I'm not going to teach you exactly what it is or exactly how to get into it, but I'm going to brief you on it. It is a deep reservoir of life force within your beingness, okay? The belly, it's a portal. It's a place that you can access inside of your energy. If you look at a lot of men today, some men, like an Andrew Tate, has access to his belly, but he doesn't have access to, he has not transformed the belly. The raw, primal, wild force in the belly, it has to be, you have to learn how to have a relationship with it, and it has to be balanced with heart and intellect. You have to be the mediator of that thing. If you're just blindly listening to the belly force, you can kind of become an asshole at times, and you can become arrogant, and you lose something. A lot of people with just pure belly force, they go to prison, right? Because they don't know how to, the thing owns them. So I would argue Andrew is kind of being owned by something inside of him, right? And he probably chooses to be somewhere. And I think he's probably happy with himself somewhere. But the point is, we're just using him as an example. That is better than being repressed, okay? It's better to be an Andrew Tate than it is to be repressed. But what I'm saying is there's a spectrum. There's the complete just being owned by your belly. You're just a walking wild man, savage, more like a savage man versus a wild man. And you're just savage, right? Like a Wes Watson. There's just a savageness there. That's most likely, again, better than being repressed. But repression is on the other end of the spectrum. And that's when people lose their belly, and you can even feel where they talk from, and they will talk like this. And I think it's all about mathematics, and if I do this, then logically I should heal, and logically she'll want to date me. If I bring her flowers and I tell her she's beautiful, she's going to want to date me. How could she not want to date me? But I told her everything she wanted to hear. I said I loved her, and I gave her my heart, and I told her everything she wanted to hear, and she broke up with me. And I've been loyal, and I've been faithful. Right? You get it? There's it's just you're operating here up. You're not connected to these ancient reservoir of energy inside of yourself that every human being has access to. All right? Now, I'm not saying that's the ultimate truth and this is wrong, but there has to be a balance of all of these forces in the human experience if you want to know yourself. And the belly, in our culture, we've been cut off from it. It's been shunned. Other cultures, like in Brazil, they value belly. Belly is huge there. The way they dance, the way they move. If you just watch Brazilians walk, it's just a total different experience than watching Americans walk, right? You look at Americans like taking a hike, and they're just like, hi, how's it going? Yeah, hi, how are you? How are you? Yeah, no, thank you. Right? It's like you look at Brazilians and they're just like, whatever the language is, ciao, or even Italians are more in their belly a lot of times too than Americans. But Brazilians especially, it's just like, muito bom, tô saudade, saudade, Rio de Janeiro. There's a depth there. There's an embodiment there. And, well, you might be asking yourself, well, what's the point? Well, because we're talking about health on this channel. You got to be in touch with your body and your energy and your belly if you want vitality. You can't just Brian Johnson your way out of it. Sorry, I talk a lot of shit on this channel. I'll calm down with that. But you can't just like, it's not all mechanical like the way Brian Johnson does with all of the metrics and everything. And it's like, I'm the healthiest person on the planet because my vitamin D levels, my vitamin C levels, this metric, that metric. Is that health? Is that health? I don't know. I'm not saying wrong or right, but there's other aspects to health, to being a human being. And so I'm talking about vitality. I'm talking about life force. I'm talking about spiritual energy. I'm talking about creative reservoir, your creative tank. Okay? So the belly, it's something that lives inside of you, the wild man inside of you that you've put in a closet because you were told it was wrong or too big or too powerful, and you had to be calmer and you had to be more composed and you had to be quieter and less impactful. Right? You're too impactful. Just shut up, Johnny. Just be quiet. Go to school. Be quiet. You have making way too much impact in this family. Okay, you need to be quiet. And your teachers, the same thing. You're too loud in the classroom. Be quiet and listen to the material. And so you start to just develop a relationship with this thing where you're like, oh my goodness, this thing's going to get me into trouble. Go away and let's just get really smart and logical. Okay? So the belly is the ticket to being alpha. It's if you can understand your own belly, and you can understand the conversation under the conversation. You can understand your deep, deep emotions without needing to react to them. And you can own them on your deep primal instincts. You have power. You have power. Okay? And so I'm going to say a couple more things here. And if you like this video, I'll make a part 2. But I need you guys to just like bring me that motivation, right? I need the validation. Good job, Josh. Make part 2. We love this. Keep going. I'm so interested. Please teach me, master. All right? That's the kind of validation I need if you want a part 2. So, the belly, all right, it's a space. It's a force. You can look at a big cat. A big cat is all belly. You look at Joe Rogan, a belly force, and he's got wisdom too. Much different to Andrew Tate. Very, very different, those two. You look at a guy like Marlon Brando. He had a lot of belly back in the day, but I'm not talking about fierce belly. He had a vulnerable, flowing belly that was so unpredictable, and he changed acting forever. Because actors used to be like John Wayne, where it was all about being strong and tough, and you can watch those films and see how in control and their face and their posture and how everything they say is perfectly composed. But then Marlon Brando came along and started being totally feminine and vulnerable and unpredictable, and he was magnetizing. And actors started following his footsteps because, hey, it was more interesting. We know how the movie's going to end with John Wayne. We know exactly what he's going to say. You know he's going to save the day. Well, what the fuck? That's not a movie. That's not life. There's always unpredictability. There's always, there's more to life. So we're not talking about being a harmless man, because as Jordan Peterson says, right, a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very violent man who knows how to have that violence under voluntary control. Okay, so you got to get in touch with your violence. You got to get in touch with your belly. And your belly is not all about killing and not all about violence. There's vulnerability there. There's a dance there. Could be feminine. You could have more feminine essence in your belly. I do. I have a ton of feminine in my belly. But you got to learn how to get into your belly, and you got to want it, and you got to value it. Okay? So I am going to make a part 2 to this. If you like this, you should consider coming to our retreat, which is in 3 weeks, and we have 1 spot left. That's as much as I'll sell you on things. Oh, let me keep this open here, by the way. So we have a retreat, right? And it's coming up soon, and you can join that. If you're interested in this kind of thing, we run a specific retreat to awaken the belly inside of a human being. And if you can't come, you don't have the budget, or for whatever reason, we'll do a part 2 here. Okay, we'll do a part 2. And we'll go into all of these slides here. Okay? So let me know if you want a part 2. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know what you think about this new setup here and this new channel. And I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Okay? Hope you enjoyed the show. And I'll see you soon. Peace.